Yes, I'm able to see your screen. Other members are able to see the screen.
I'll assume everyone can. If you can't
I
kindly,
can.
if you can't kindly share in the chat so that we can do something about it. So without wasting more time, I would like to go into the topic of discussion today. And the topic is cybersecurity and data protection in digital projects. So in this presentation, I want to share on the basics of general data protection regulation, which is the basis for most of the data protection laws globally. We'll look at data management in online learning. Then we also try to look at secure collaboration tools and then managing participant data ethically. So when we go to uh, the basics of general data protection, we're going to look at the legal framework, the principles and individual rights, and possible penalties for violation of these rights. Then we shall look at in online learning, we look at data types, platform risks, privacy by design practices. Then we look at categories, evaluation criteria, how you can red flag some of these tools. And then we shall look at the consent life cycle or breach response in case you feel your privacy online has been violated. Key takeaways and then implementation roadmap. Well, we shall look at what is, most people call it GDPR. It stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And this is a privacy and data protection law, which was enacted by the European Union, and it came into force in 2018. So it governs how organizations collect, process, store, and transfer personal data, whether you're in Europe or wherever you are in the world. So its purpose is to give individuals, you and I, more control over my personal data and to set rules for organizations that collect, store, and process that data. I don't know if when you visit most sites, you'll see there is data consent, which tells you we are going to capture certain data. So an organization, private, public, irrespective of the legal registration that processes data, is supposed to comply with these laws. And the law looks at what, like the 6 lawful bases for processing data is consent, contract, legal obligation, and interests. We shall look at this in detail, but also there are fines which can occur or can an organization can face in case they violate this data. So what are the principles or the foundations for someone to comply? We have what we call the lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Okay. Here we are looking at processing data must have a legal basis and be honest and open about what you're processing and why you're processing it. Okay. So you look at, for example, if you are an online shopping platform and you are processing data, the most thing I would probably ask you to expect you to ask me is maybe my phone contact, my email and address, and probably age, depending on what you are collecting. So the purpose, data collected must state the purpose and not be used for a different purpose. Okay, so when you are collecting data, or when a platform is collecting data, it should clearly state the purpose, why it is collecting that data. It is not supposed to be just for, for purposes of collecting and probably selling it to other people. So we look at also the data minimization, only collecting data that is adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary. Like I mentioned, you have to collect only data that you are going to use for a particular purpose. For example, if it's an online learning platform, probably they will require your academic registration number, your email address for communication correspondence. They might look at your year of study and all that and course. It should not ask you for your marital status. Some of that is not necessary. And then it should look at keeping this data accurate and up to date. Because whatever data that is collected about an individual, it has to be accurate. That's why in most cases you realize that entities request you to update your data, especially if they captured your data online. So then the storage, we need to look at data must not be kept longer than necessary. For as long as I'm still your client and I log into your system, maybe you can keep my data. For as long as I still subscribe to the service you offer, maybe you can, but you should set limits for how long you should keep this data. And in case you realize someone is no longer using your platform, you can send them notifications and delete that. Then I will look at the integrity and confidentiality. Appropriate security measures should be put in place against unauthorized access. Okay, you should not just share that data to anyone. It should be only shared with the relevant legally accepted entities, for example, because they need to consent from the user if they are to share that data. And then accountability. Any organization must be able to demonstrate compliance, and this is not optional. Many organizations in Uganda now, we have the data protection department, which is under NITAU, and any entity that collects data about anyone is required by law, Ugandan law, to register with this entity. And then you specify exactly what data you're collecting and what you're going to use it for. And if you have third-party organizations, you share it with them, you also declare that as well. So what are your rights as the person whose data is being collected? One, you have a right to be informed. You have to be told. You have to know how your data is going to be used, okay, and how it's going to be collected. You have to you have to request for access for this data in case you need it to know exactly what they are collecting from you. And then you have the right to rectify inaccurate or incomplete data within 1 month. So in case you realize any of these platforms you log in, many of us might not know, but it is your responsibility also to note that whatever is collected from you is accurate information. Then you have the right to delete information about yourself. If you don't have the rights to delete it, you can request the entity collecting that data to erase that information. Then you have the right to restrict processing. You can temporarily hold processing, or if you realize there is some irregularities in whatever data that is being captured, you have a right to halt the process of capturing that data. And then you have a right to transfer data, that's data portability, from one service to another. So it is not a must that whoever is collecting data from you should own it forever. And then you have a right to object to processing for any direct marketing or illegitimate interests. Some of these sites collect your data when in actual sense they are going to sell them to these telemarketing, they're going to sell them to online marketing platforms for other use, and that's why you get spam messages. Then you have the right to re-automated decisions, opt out. So that's why you see in some mailing lists down below there is an option for you to opt out in case you're getting unsolicited. So an organization must explain why it collects your email address and how it will be used. If a customer requests that the data the company generally must provide is within a specified time frame, then it is your right also to know that. So I wanted to show you some of the global companies that have faced fines because of data protection violation. Meta, as you can see, in 2023, they spent over 1.2 billion euros, where they transferred user data from Europe to US servers without adequate consent from the users. So they had to be fined. And as you can see, Amazon also faced a similar challenge when the advertising systems accessed personal data without proper legal basis or valid consent from the users. And they also had to pay a fine of over 746 million euros. And all the rest, as you can see, there is an example of Google in France, British Airways in the UK in 2020, and all these are recent cases that have been reported. So, as a user who is subscribing to any online platform, any online digital platform, you have to know what is it that they are going to collect from you as a user accessing this service, and then what data they are collecting and how they are going to use it. So let's look at data management in online learning. How platforms collect data and how to protect learners. Ideally, a good system should capture the data as highlighted, what gets collected, and the risks of being mishandled. Identity data, name, email, photo ID numbers. Okay, so if the color codes you can see on the right shows you the risk that is likely to be faced if that data is compromised. And one of the risks that can be interfaced here is the identity theft if breached. Someone can maybe alter identity cards either to sit exams or to get results, for get false documents, things like that. Then learning data, quiz scores, progress certificates. It's not very critical, but of course it can create discrimination if this is shared across. Just imagine if your results for all the learners were shared across the university, everyone would start judging other people depending on their scores. Then we can have the behavior, login time, session duration, pages visited. This is surveillance without consent. It can be used for benefits of other marketing companies, other companies targeting such specific individuals. So these are some of the risk is high. Then the communication, forum posts, chat logs, messages. This is also high because it violates privacy violation, exposure. I might be having a private conversation with someone, and then if this is leaked, it could violate my privacy. Then we have the technical IP addresses, device. It's not very critical, but you can see the score is medium. Re-identification risk. Someone can easily use that to forge or to access different services on the network or on your device, depending if they do. And then there is this disability information, ethnicity. This is very critical in some specific areas of the world because it can be used um, for example, to segregate people, to disadvantage some people, to bully. I mean, depending on who lands on that information, there is a lot that can uh, that can be used with that data. So, if you are developing any system or any app that is going to be online, it is very critical to clearly inform the users what information is going to be collected and how it is going to be used. Okay. So I want to look at um, some what is it that we can look out that in data privacy. We have privacy by default, strongest privacy settings. So any system that we're looking out for should have these as some of the basics that you should look at, especially when you're going to look at digital learning platforms, you're going to look at collaboration platforms, you're going to look at correspondence platforms. You need to ensure that this system you're looking at has, by default, it has privacy, strongest settings enabled, no opt-in, only collect data for learning, core learning functions. Why do you collect data about my ethnicity, my disability learning? I don't know, maybe in some areas to enable you access different services, but if it's not called for, why would you pick on that information? So we look at access by control, so we can have role-based access. For example, if you have a system where you conduct online learning, what is it that the facilitators can access? What is it that the admins or the learners, can a learner access a different learner's results or work forms and all that? So we need to look at multi-factor authentication, especially for the admins and the facilitator accounts, so that there is no breach of individual accounts. It should be able to log and audit all access to the participant records and the users of the system. And then it should look at consent management, the granular consent forms before enrollment. It should clearly tell the learner what the system is about, what they are going to collect about them, and then how they are going to store their data, where is it going to be stored, or what is it going to be used? Is it for communication? Then maintain timestamps. How often do you log in? Or what do you access when you log in? So these are all very critical in online learning platforms, to maintain logs showing who accessed what data, what changes were made, when activities occurred, what happened. Then the data lifecycle, define and enforce retention schedules. If you finish whatever you're doing, for example, it's a course, why do you maintain my data in there, especially if they are not results, for over 2, 3, 4 years? So depending on the policy of the institution, you should notify the users of the systems, how you intend to store, how long you intend to store this data, and enable them to continue having trust in whatever they are accessing. So what is it that you should consider when choosing or collaboration tools? So I looked at some of the tools available on the market, and for the different purposes, we looked at, for example, messaging and communication. We have Signal or Wiki, which has encrypted instant messaging, Proton Mail for encrypted email, and WebEx, whereby this is for video conferencing. Also, Zoom has proven to be a good tool which cuts across, because you can do messaging, you can do video calling. Then for document collaboration, we looked at CryptPad. It has encrypted collaborative documents, and then only Office, self-hosted. So these are just some of the tools that I sampled, but there are quite a number on the market. Some of them are open source, some of them are enterprise, some of them are freemium, whereby you have some free usage for some services, and then when you need more, then you have to pay. Then we looked at for file transfer and storage. There is Trezor, which is end-to-end encrypted cloud storage. Of course, there is many people will talk about Microsoft. There is also Amazon now offers online storage, and many others, including Google, which most of us use. And then there's INS high drive. But these are some of the tools that are available online and are very strict on data governance, privacy management, and cybersecurity controls. So for project and task management, we looked at Asana with DPA. It's a task management solution. Then Kanban, some of these are open source projects which you can use for project tracking, and then Bitwarden Teams. Like I said, these are some of those that are there, but there are very many solutions on the market from which you can choose. So when you're considering any solutions, what are some of the key things that you need to look at critically? The vendor of this solution should be able to confirm their GDPR obligations and liability. That is a must, okay? And you need to know where the data where is it going to be stored, okay? Depending on where you are, in some countries, for example, Uganda, it is not allowed to store information for citizens outside Uganda unless you have approval from NITAU, which is a government entity that regulates data privacy. So we need to look at encryption in transit and at rest. In transit, it means when you're sending an email, is that email encrypted? And when that information or email is seated on the server, is it encrypted? So as you can see, whatever is in red is none. You should not compromise. You should not even overlook it. It's something that you need to have as a must. Then we have data deletion on request. Whichever system you have, if you say you want to delete, for example, you stored something on Amazon or on Google, they should confirm that when you say you've deleted or terminated whatever is there, it is actually deleted and nothing is stored. That when you come back, you can retrieve it. So others that are very critical, but not very, but recommended, but not very like a must-have is multi-factor authentication. This enables the users to ensure that the right users are accessing the correct information. For example, I believe all of you have multi-factor authentication for your emails, whereby when you log in, it has to either ask you for a code or you send something on your phone for you to be able to access it. Then audit logs. It is also a good feature to have in a system. And then the ISO 27001. This is information security. It's a standard on information security that is required, and SOC 2 certification. These are standards that are required for data security in any system, be it a physical system or a digital system. So what is it that you should look at as red flags in any system before you look at using it? If a vendor won't sign a data processing agreement, then just know there is a problem, okay? If they are saying they're only storing data, for example, US only. I used US, but because I think they have some of the biggest server centers in the world, but it can be UK, it can be France, it can be German. If someone is saying they're exclusively storing data on a specific location without consent and justifiable reasons, then it should be a red flag. If you cannot permanently delete your user data on request, then you cannot use that solution or that system. Then free tools that monetize data via sales, sometimes they might never tell you, but you need to critically read. Many people don't read the data privacy policies, but in there, most solutions tell you what they are going to use the data for. And you might miss out saying that they can share your data without consent to third parties for advertising. So if the vendors have unclear sub-processors, then it should be a red flag. You need to kindly follow up and find out why is it them and not why is it not them handling the data processing and they're passing it on to another sub-processor. And then the consent via pre-ticked boxes, it should not be the case. You should be able to tick yourself what you have understood already. But if you go on a solution and you find that do you accept this and the solution is already ticked, that should be a red flag for you to look at. So in looking at digital projects, looking at online money tools, looking at collaboration tools, how do we manage participants' data ethically? Here we're looking at consent, transparency, there's rights fulfillment, and breach response. So what is it that you need to look at? You need to be critical on one, inform, publicly clear privacy notice, explain what data, why, how long, who has access. Inform the user. Okay? If you are going to have this online recording, I think when it was being recorded, you saw that a pop-up came and it tells you this session is being recorded, whereby you have to click OK. Otherwise, if you are not comfortable, you are supposed to exit or get off the call. Then obtain granular consent form, separate boxes for each purpose. You have to clearly indicate to the users of the solution that this is going to be captured, this is going to be captured, this is going to be like this. Those are the sections where someone has to consent, and then they proceed. Then you have to record, store time-stamped consent evidence linked to the version of the notice they saw. Most of these systems, the moment you click the privacy policy pop-up or section, it records in the back end. Then Honor, fulfill all data subjects within 30 days. Process withdrawals immediately. If you said you are going to store this data for this period of time, just honor that. And then delete at the end of the retention period, the solution you're using, the system you're using should be able to delete all the data that was captured. So the valid consent must be freely given. It must be specific. The users must be informed. It must not be ambiguous. It should be documented and withdrawable at any time. So as facilitators, as processors of data, as project coordinators, we need to be sure that all the participants we have clearly understand what kind of information is being captured and how it's going to be used. And if they request for it to be deleted, it can be deleted. So what is it that you can do in case you realize that there's a violation of your personal data? One, between the first hour you can isolate affected systems immediately. You can log out, you can deactivate the account. You can whatever it is, you can get out. Then you need to also preserve evidence. Do not delete logs. If you realize you have to have evidence of why you think your data is violated, then you have to assign someone an incident response lead so that to take over whatever you think is the reason for what you think is violation. Then we look at assess severity. What is the impact of this data or the information you think is being violated? Identify what data, how many people are at risk, and then determine if the breach is likely to cause rights or freedoms risk. Okay, so and you have to document everything. Then if it's internally, you can escalate it, notify the data protection officer if you have. You can brief management, and this all happens in your institution or in your because you are running a project. I presume you have a platform you're using, and they collect data from you. So you realize there is someone is misusing your data. This is the ideal recommended procedure to handle responding to such an incident. So you begin a formal incident log. Then you report to the supervisors or authority if the risk is the risk is to go to individuals, and then include nature, categories, numbers of people likely, and the likely consequences. So also you have to notify the affected individuals who are at risk and what is likely to happen. For example, just imagine if in an institution, someone got all the data for the students in that institution and sold it to, say, an online marketing company, these companies that run surveys. I mean, they would spam everyone. They might use that information for different users. I mean, there's a lot that could go on. But this particular one is a procedure that is recommended in an institution, that first you isolate the systems, then you clearly capture what information has been you think is at risk, and the likely people that are likely to be affected by the breach of this data, and then you notify the persons involved and then the management. So when we look at what is it that just a minute, please. Oops. So we're looking at the, can you see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, we can see.
Oh, okay. I thought I was speaking to myself. So when you look at the compliance sheet, what is it that we need to look at? We need to have trust for the systems that are being used. Participants should share data because they trust you. Trust is fragile, and once broken, many people might not use your system again. So it should be participant-centered. Yes, you want to collect this data or this information, but are the users comfortable with whatever you're collecting, or whatever, or you want to serve your own interests? Because most people hide the intent of what they are collecting in the data, the legal text, and they use a language which you can't easily understand. So whatever you do, the user should be able to ably understand what your data protection policy says. Then we look at the transparency. If a learner, for example, if a learner is used to generic scores, grades, or recommendation, it should be automated so that decisions must be explainable. It should not be very complex for them to understand. Okay? So the system should be easily understandable for everyone who uses it. So these are all ethical data stewardships that we should consider. Then responsible use of analytics, that is getting analytics derived from participants' data should be used to improve learning outcomes, not profile, rank, or make unemployment decisions without consent. Um, then we looked at what are the key takeaways in all this that we need to do. One, all institutions that collect data need to appoint a data protection officer. And then they have to map data flows. What is it that you are generating from what you are collecting? Then you have to exist the tools that you are using, the platforms for compliance. We looked at the different elements to look at when you're looking at platforms to use. And then you need to review and update privacy notices and consent forms. The laws are changing every day globally. Now with the use of technology and all that, you find that the laws are changing almost every now and then. Then if you look at phase one and you have all these in place, then you have to replace non-compliant tools with those vetted for GDPR alternatives. Then you have to draft or sign data protection agreements with data processors. Whoever accesses the data that you process, they need to have you need to have consent. Then implement access controls. What data is accessed by who and when. And then you create and test data breach responses procedures. So this, we are looking at an institution level, what you need to put in place to enforce general data protection. And then the last one is to deliver GDPR awareness and training to all staff. Many institutions collect data. Most of us, when we join organizations, we have what we call the biodata forms. You get your next of kin, but not many organizations even inform their staff why they collect this information or who has access to it and who doesn't. Then we need to think of reviewing regular cycle reviews of data audits, the data that you have in the institution or in a project, and how you use it. Then you conduct first data protection impact assessment. What this means is if this data is to be breached, or this information that is being collected is to be breached, in whatever project, whatever system, whatever you're doing, how is it likely to impact the users, the institution, and the participants? Then you have to document everything and provide accountability with evidence where it is required. So in summary, that is what we had to look at, but we look at what can be regarded as GDPR compliant and what can be regarded as non-compliant. And then we look at the area of collection. You have to ensure that minimum data that is needed is only captured, and you state the purpose why it is captured. If you find that all available data is collected, but they don't tell you why they are collecting it, then it might violate some of the core principles of the GDPR regulation. Then the consent, it should be explicit, it should be documented, granular, and granular, it means section by section, someone has to consent to the different sections. and then it can be withdrawn, you know. Then storage, where is it going to be stored and for how long? Then the tools you use, they have to be vetted with data protection agreements before deployment. You have to think through what is it that you're going to store, and if it meets the requirements of non-violation of a personal data agreement. Then the breach response in an institution, it has to be clearly documented and shared with all people who are in the institution or the organization. And then people have to know. That is the training. They have to know. They have to be made aware of what is collected and how it is used and who accesses it. Then the accountability bit is very critical, which should be conducted regularly for members to know that whatever data that is collected still meets the purpose why it is collected. Finally, this is what I would think as what we should walk away in regards to data privacy. We look at data privacy is not optional, okay? Because if it's breached in this cyber world we are in, then it can put so many people at risk. So it applies to any digital project handling, be it for European residents or Ugandan or global. Because while it was initiated by the European Union, it applies globally. Like it is already said, ignorance is not a defense and fines are substantial. So embed privacy from the start. When designing any system, any project, you have to comply because it is very expensive and risky if you are to meet the penalties that come with not maintaining privacy. So privacy by design means building data protection into every project, tool or work from day one. So as you are thinking of any project to carry out, the first thing you are going to look at is what are we collecting, how will it affect the people that we are working with, and what is it that we are going to use it for. So from day one, well, we should put privacy at the core, at the forefront. So the consent must be meaningful. Don't pre-tick boxes. If you are going to collect information or data about anyone, let it be very understandable to people. Let them understand what it is going to be used for. And then you have to vet every tool. Most of us sign into platforms, even online, without reading, without going into the details of what they are collecting and how they are collecting it, and where they are going to store it. So it is very critical that you see which app, which system you are using, what are they collecting. Many times they ask you date of birth, they ask you so much, and then you don't even put into consideration why they are collecting all this information vis-a-vis what you are doing with them and if it is really required for them to collect all that information. Then prepare before a breach happens. So you have to have a response plan. And this is not optional. You have to look at all the risk factors. In every project, you have to have a risk matrix. If this happens, then what is the likely impact? And then finally, ethics go beyond the law. GDPR sets just the minimum, but true data stewardship means treating participants' data with the same care and respect you would want for your own. So with those, Mr. Mode, I'm open for questions. Those are some of the references I looked at, especially given the fact that whatever we are doing, we are dealing with cyber projects, and they don't have a specific location or geographical location. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, James. It has been an insightful session. I think now people have an idea of how to deal with data. You have been dealing with data without knowing certain consequences. So members, please, you can give us a thumbs up, go to your reaction, give us a thumbs up for James Nnusu, so that we appreciate him. Just go to the reactions, you give him a thumbs up, very good. Alan, Rachel, thank you very much. Very good. Susanna, thank you. Please, in the next 2 to 4 minutes, let's have some questions for James, and then we see how to close the session. Any questions, please, you're free to unmute and ask, or you can write it in the message, any questions, please? You can type it in the chat, I'll read it out, or you can unmute and be able to ask. Okay, that means that I think James was very clear and the people understood what you presented.
It is either the topic was very clearly presented or they never understood anything.
Presented when there's no question in these webinars. That's what I've learned from day one. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, members, for joining us. This has been our 5th webinar. Please, we shall have a 6th one in the next 1 week. Please join us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mude and team on call for listening to me. Have a good day.